Let me get this straight. Refereeing has arguably never been worse. VAR is absolutely not helping the problem at all. And we've got an offside rule currently integrated with VAR that most certainly at some point will severely injure someone, if not end their playing career entirely. And you think the answer is to introduce blue cards. I need help. I need help. We leave you alone for 5 minutes, and this is what you come up with. We need to talk. Blue cards in football. I can't really believe that I'm talking about this, but here we are. IFAB sign-off sin bin trial at elite level, but FIFA reluctant. We'll get to you a little bit later. Elite level football could include sin bins as a new punishment. Referees will be able to show players a blue if they commit certain offences, and IFAB is set to make an announcement this week after trials in Wales. Let's dig right in, because as I'm sure you can expect from the way I'm talking, I have some concerns. Professional football could get a major shake-up with news that lawmakers at the International Football Association Board, otherwise known as IFAB, have given permission for sin bins to be trialled at elite level. A blue card will join traditional yellow and red cards, which have been an integral part of the game since they were first introduced at the 1970 World Cup almost 54 years ago. It's been 54 years of yellow and red card bliss. However, now they are looking to change it. FIFA have already moved to quash the idea that blue cards could soon be introduced at the very top level, because we all know that FIFA are kings at making great decisions, citing reports to the effect that incorrect and premature, and calling for trials to be exclusively limited to a lower level of football. Any such trials, if implemented, should be limited to testing in a responsible manner at lower levels. I do agree with that to a certain extent. I think eventually you're going to need to trial it at elite level or in some higher level, but I agree originally that it should be there. A position that FIFA intends to reiterate when this agenda item is discussed at the IFAB AGM on the 2nd of March. Right. The Daily Telegraph, I don't really mind the Telegraph, it's not one of my most hated tabloids. The Daily Telegraph earlier wrote that an IFAB announcement regarding the possibility will be made on Friday. Fantastic. Following on from blue cards having already been trialled at grassroots level in Wales. Yes, okay. The FA had already introduced sin bins at grassroots level across England ahead of the 2019-20 season. So the idea of a sin bin, let's talk about that to begin with. The sin bin is, in my mind, a 50-50 problem. On one hand, I understand that there are certain situations that need to be dealt with that do not require dismissing a player for the entirety of the match. I get that. However, there is the argument that if you get rid of a player for 10 minutes, then it will change the flow and the mix of a game. But we'll go on to that a little bit later. Let's continue. A player should receive a blue card for a cynical foul, threatening the very existence of the tactical foul as an art form perfected by many individuals over the years. If you are an England fan, you will remember Chiellini slicing into Bukayo Saka to stop him on the counter-attack in the Euros, and that pretty much ended England's opportunity in that phase of play. Players can still take a card for the team in that sense, but a blue carries a much more severe punishment of 10 minutes in the sin bin. Let's go back to the idea of a sin bin, because if you were to take a player, right, here he is, my drawing is not very well, but take a player and you're going to pop him in a box, right, that player's team will be down to 10 men. In that time, do you think those 10 men are going to be attacking? No. Do you think they're going to be going forwards? No. Do you think they are going to be in any way, shape or form risking in any way? No. They're going to be waiting for their player to come out of the sin bin to join and then become 11 men once more. Now, what a lot of people are arguing, and what I would argue as well, is this is going to ruin the spectacle, right? I think that people really need to think about the way the game is seen. And I don't think that's what these lawmakers are doing. I don't think it is. I think generally from a player point of view, if you're a player and you see an opposition go off because he's committed a foul or he's done something bad or he's been poor person towards the referee and he's committed dissent, I think that a punishment is a good idea. But just from watching the game, it's a sport. It's a spectator sport. People need to be entertained. I don't see how this improves that, and it's only going to make it worse. It's only going to distract. It's only going to cause a negative impact on the game. Now, there's another side to this, okay? But we'll get to that a little bit later. A blue card can also be shown by a referee for acts of dissent. I have issues with this as well. As lawmakers attempt to stamp it out, 2 blue cards shown to the same player during the game will result in a red. Fine. Much as 2 yellows already does. Okay, a combination of yellow and a blue will also equate to a red. Right. So, yeah, blue because you've committed a cynical foul, the last man, or one of the last men. You get a yellow card because you've dissented towards the referee or committed dissent, and then you get a red. It's pink, I understand, just go with me. Right. Okay, let's just break this down. What's my major issue with this? Why is there a problem with this inherently? My problem with this inherently is him. Not Anthony Taylor himself. I don't actually have a problem with him at all. Not personally. I don't really know him. I don't know why I said really, because I don't know him. But him as what he stands for. He's a referee. He's particularly a referee at the highest level of the game, in the most watched league in the world. And I argue that his colleagues are not doing anywhere near well enough. I'd argue that they need to be doing so much more. And it's down to this. And it's this reason, right here, that I don't think we should be giving referees any more power, any more chance to influence games. I don't think they should be given any more. And my example to you is the game between Tottenham and Liverpool. Remember the game where the goal for Liverpool was chalked off because of, I don't really know what reason it was. They just didn't want to give it. They missed it. That kind of blundering error cannot afford to happen. You've got people like Mike Dean coming out and saying that he didn't want to get his fellow referee in trouble. So he didn't ask him to go and look at the monitor to re-review a situation. These are horrendous decisions. These people are human, and I understand that, and I have sympathy with that. But in that case, you cannot be giving them any more power. On top of that, the decisions that they are talking about, let's go back and talk about this. The decisions that they are talking about, okay? They're talking about dissent, okay? They're talking about a tactical foul. I think that, especially the dissent one, it's very subjective, okay? It's subjective to the point that we don't know what's said on the pitch. We don't know why it's said. I've seen 3 Wolves players run towards a referee and one of them get sent off because they appeared threatening. They didn't say anything, they just ran. And it's these kind of decisions that I'm getting concerned with. And the subjective calls, I mean, I'll give you an example. What's the major problem with the handball rule? Anybody? If you know, you know. What's the major problem with the handball rule? It's subjective, right? You don't know whether there's intent. You don't know whether they mean it. You don't know whether it's too high in the air. You don't know whether it's too low in the air. You don't know how a handball is meant to be given anymore. And I think that it's not necessarily as grey as that, but it could go that way. What is a foul? How could you see a foul? What is deemed as a tactical foul? Is it halfway up the pitch? Is it towards the penalty area? How many players need to be involved? Do you need a certain amount of force in the challenge? I could go on. And the same with the dissent. I agree that referees need to be protected. I agree that referees need to have they need to have their own voice. They need to be shown some form of authority. They need to be given a little bit more. I get that. However, if a referee doesn't like something that a player says, then he's going to go into the sin bin, which could seriously affect the way that game plays out. But another referee might feel differently. So what is the criteria for dissent? Genuinely. Is it swear words? Is it utilising a loud voice? Is it speaking behind his back? Is it ignoring him? Is it merely ignoring the referee going to be a form of dissent? What is the criteria? And it's these questions that leave me to think that there is a big problem with this. I just don't like it. I think it's a major issue. I think it's something that really needs to be looked at and go back to the drawing board. I understand it's been signed off. I understand it's going to be trialled. I think it's the correct thing to trial it in cups. I think that's the correct thing. But as for just looking at the decisions themselves, I think there's too many subjective calls there. I think there's too much power for referees who I don't think are good enough to referee at this level. I'd argue that refereeing is at its worst at the moment, and I can only see this going worse. I can only see it. They've already got VAR to deal with. They're not dealing with it particularly well. Add in this, and you get a poor subjective call for a sin bin that alters a match. Can you imagine if a player gets put in a sin bin and the game goes from 0-0 to 2-0 because the player had a sin, because they were down to 10 men? Can you imagine? And if the call wasn't correct? No. For me, this isn't correct. And I think they really need to go back to the drawing boards. I'm all for the reason why they're doing it, but the actual result and the solution they have needs a little bit more time. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Let me know how you feel about blue cards, sin bins, and what you would change. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.